collection and description. We have Jodie Mattos with the fifth generation settler in Hawaii of Okinawa and Japanese person. She has been a library in the Hawaii collection, University of Hawaii at Manoa Library since 2010. She was initially hired as the humanities librarian in the business humanities and social science department. She holds a Master of Library Studies and a Master of Art in American Studies both from the University of Hawaii and Manoa. And we also have Dr. Joyce, who is originally from Chicago and has served as original cataloger for Hawaii collection at American Library, University of Hawaii at Manoa since 2017. She received her master's degree in library and information science from University of Illinois at Urbana, and then with a particular in special collections, and graduated certificate in museum study from the University of Hawaii and Manoa. For the past 3 years, Margaret has served as a metadata specialist for Hawaii Applied and helping to build a Hawaii knowledge organization system. Margaret's professional interest includes special collections, cataloging techniques, critical cataloging, and knowledge organization, including the creation of control vocabularies to represent different forms of knowledge. And Margaret also served as the chair of American Library Association subject analysis committees, as well as chair of committee evaluation of cataloging working group. So now, for yours.
Thank you, Sanjay. Hello, my name is Brady Mattos, and it's wonderful to be here. Thank you for being here for our presentation. I use she, her, those pronouns, and I'm a settler coming to you from the U.S. occupied kingdom of Hawaii. Oh, sorry. Hawaii collection at the University of Hawaii at Manoa is widely recognized as the world's largest collection of materials on Hawaii. The core of the collection was built and continues to be built through a new comprehensive collecting policy, emphasizing published content covering all time periods, languages, material types, and subject matter. The collection strengths are 19th century through 21st century published materials, with particular emphasis on government and institutional publications, including those at the University of Hawaii. One collection collects films about Hawaii and an ancient diet is rare. Beginning in the 1980s, recording of VCRs and VHS cassettes began. In the early days, one librarian scoured TV listings in his local newspaper and picked articles about new local television programs. There were not few channels to constantly line, 3 member networks. PBS Hawaii located Shichi, which is our local PBS station, and Kiku, a local Japanese TV station. There were also a lot less options for access and preservation for content readers. So our library received a good amount of responses about making television programs available. Some of you may be familiar with the Vanderbilt Television News Archives. Our collecting policy for the author program is very similar to that one. Here's a screenshot of the Vanderbilt Television News Archive. The Vanderbilt Television News Archive is the world's most extensive and complete archive of television news. It has been recording, preserving, and providing access to television news broadcasts of the national networks since August 5th, 1963. The core collection includes evening news from ABC, CBS, and NBC since 1968, an hour play of CNN since 1995, and Fox News since 2004. Our author program is also similar to E80. It's called the Central East Efficient State Archive for Moving Images. Uli is located on the University of Hawaii West Oahu campus and is dedicated to the care, preservation, and the restoration of film and video tape related to the history and culture of Hawaii. They focus exclusively on analog media, meaning no digital. Patrons can search their catalog, go through their digitized collections, and view some of the images. What is available on their website is just a small sample of what they do. The off-air television programs, I mentioned that we started with VCRs and VHS tapes. We then moved to our first snap stream system, which acts like the DVR on steroids. Snapstream is well known by TV programs such as The Daily Show and Midnight TV, in that you can scour news reports, identify news clips, and then allow those shows to then show it and use it in their sort of humor and broadcast. Our first version of Snapstream needed to be connected to specific computers, so you can see how it was quite a rudimentary system. Our current system of Snapstream is cloud-based. Well, I'm special, actually, it's online on cloud-based, but we can access it from any computer, which was very important during the pandemic when we all had to leave our library. So we were luckily able to continue our offering with. While we are no longer Snapstream subscribers, we have a yearly subscription that included support services. We still utilize the hardware that we purchased and are using it until it luckily never breaks. We do have a backup system that some of our computer people have created, so we do have something in the works in case we ever need to utilize it. So let's talk about how we select TV programs to record. I mentioned earlier, in the early days, our librarians scoured TV listings and local newspapers for mentions of TV programs to record. Now, the current system has a guide that lists the channels on the campus data feed, and the programs can be scheduled up to 2 weeks in advance. We can record up to 4 concurrent channels, but we hardly ever do. Programs about Hawaii are selected and recorded, identifying videos about the plant, music, and history, the environment, elections coverage, and events, programs that are from and about Hawaii's ethnic and much more. So a little bit of history about the off-air program. The Hawaii Media Librarian was responsible for the off-air television program, and that librarian was housed at Sinclair Library and supervised by the Sinclair Library Department. That individual left the UHM in 2019. So the Beigang collection assumed responsibility for recording and seeking permission for the off-air program. At that time, we needed to reconstruct the workflow, get access to a called the Sunday database that manages the reformatting and streaming media, devise the permission form, and get that approved by the University of Hawaii Office of General Counsel. One thing that came from that revision is that we can no longer request blanket permission for programs for content creators, but if the content creator gives blanket permission for the series, that is acceptable. We also examine what the comparable scope of what we should be recording, thus reducing the amount of quality TV programs we record. We also examine what was recorded on VHS tape and review recorded programs that no longer fit the scope of the off-air program. I should also add that we also transferred quite a bit of material to Uli as they are much better able to manage VHS tapes. So this is a screenshot of our current operations. This is my former graduate student will say, oh dear, that's the student there, spreadsheet. So this is the large spreadsheet that shows every part of the workflow. So each cell, the first one on the left will show the program, where it was there and how long the program is, the contact information, if you have this, readily available, the date the program aired, all of that information is considered to be, added to a commission bill. This drug is very important. And then the rest of the, cells help us document each part of the workflow. So if a form is sent out, when is it sent out? Do we see the response? And was it favorable or not? And reading the form as well. It helps us keep track like this, and as you can imagine, yes, this is a kind of crazy without their workflow, but this is what we've figured out we need to do. So while I am one of two librarians in the blind section, I was in the sole responsibility for the outlet program as the graduate assistant that helps document the publishing programs with recording on staff team. That student gets information about the programs in this spreadsheet, which helps us track permissions and workflow. Which helps you seek permissions and populate folders. I also select the programs in Snapstream to record and send out requests for permissions to stream, ask me populate folders, to guys to stream to which events, faculty, and staff, as well as digital resources. As you can imagine, tracking the workflow is challenging since you can set in parts, then technical staff, pull down programs and we have permissions, and they do the work to transfer it into a form that will work with our catalog. They do the color meetings there, and then we get it back, make it ready, or we do the pre-bid catalog, which is where we provide the title, author, the participants, the URL, and the summary of the program, and then this information helps Margaret complete the cataloging work, which we need the drinks. So a very important thing that an author program does is they provide the past content to several of our inclusive materials. For example, all the local television stations cover the return of Nicolay because of the live. We talked with spectators, those connected with the Polynesian Quarantine Society, and it was a huge event, both here in Hawaii as well as throughout the Pacific. And it will be part of our collection for researchers to go examine in terms of the importance of voyaging in native wild contexts, but within the Pacific and Polynesia specifically. The author program also documents the shift in views and information about COVID-19 with context, but it also shows how shows were produced during the pandemic. It shows that we have been live in studio, we would have first had participants joining remotely via Zoom. We may have lost participants that could be in studio when alive, and then social, but also social distance. The author program will be a huge resource for researchers who will examine the pandemic and its impact on society in the future. So one thing I did want to show, which I was the biggest guilt for the author program, is that we were able to get permission from CNN to stream the United States of America, Native Hawaii. Oh, that is a mistake. My apologies.
Is that true?
So, we do, rarely, take national programs. But, W. Kamau Bell is a comedian, and with CNN, there's his own program that goes around the US and highlights different communities. He did Canada twice, so there's actually another program, in this series. We, I sent my form, but we then, received a reply back, which is lovely, because sometimes I don't always answer, which is not great. And they said, we have our own form, which was longer than us. So we used their form, we had to run it through our fiscal officer, who is, the highest silent individual in our library. Luckily, we were able to, get permission and be able to say, let's look at this program that looks at Native Caribbean. Native
Oh, okay. How long does flip-flop season last in Edmonton, Canada?
3 days. I might not go home.
It's funny, you're not the first person that I've talked to today who's thinking about not going home.
I might not.
Yeah. The Hawaii that these people are getting is a carefully crafted tourist-friendly one, where everything is totally fine all the time, 100% A-okay. But if you talk to many Hawaiians, they will tell you,
everything is not okay. It's not okay.
So on this episode, I'm showing you the side of Hawaii that tourists rarely get to see, unless their GPS is broken.
We are Hawaiians. We have been taken off from our culture, our heritage, our land.
This is Maxine Kahauleleo and Ku Ching, two Kapuna Kanakas, or Elder Hawaiians. Ku served as a trustee with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, which aims to improve the conditions of Native Hawaiians. And together they've fought for years against what they view as the erosion of their heritage at the hands of the United States of America. What? Native people screwed over by America? While I never.
We have known each other for a long time.
Classmates.
Oh, really?
Went to school together.
Okay.
So the whole program, highlights, many Native Hawaiians who are active, locally in the city. People, individuals that are very recognizable to most of us, although I must admit that I did not know these people, before working on the program. But I think the important thing is that, this program is, Native Hawaiians' big platform, an international platform to express their views clearly. And Betty Margaret, allowed viewers and CNN, which is a global network, to understand the plight of Native Hawaiians from their own mouths, from their own experiences. So this is definitely, one of the events that we feel most proud to use. So obviously challenges where, there are so many options. Compensators not involved may read our libraries, post and make their programs accessible. Different many more options to them. Posting it on their own websites or openly uploading it to social media such as YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook and Twitter, and then the most popular, with many more coming on the horizon and soon. What we have available as streaming video is limited, but that we respond to our request and that's for the second. About that, the local NBC affiliate, LA News Now, and PBS Celebrity, are more responsive and generally grant permission. Our local ABC, station, and really less so, and I'm sure there's thinking advantage when my daughter is station there. The NBC, affiliate generally does not respond. For the future. Global Library provides student-friendly, for the author project, and we have the staff to do the work. One department and Margaret are going through transitions and we hope to continue working on the author program. We are also trying to put the author program into a system, which is our Margaret project, for which it is not set up. a lot of time and effort has been spent to make recorded programs into streaming videos. And if the new technology provides new challenges to the effort program, in the program that usually are rather hand-captured and make it accessible. We need to rely on YouTube as another platform to be available for use. Number four, Olele is our local public access channel, and the some content creators have their programs on Olele, and they got permission. Others say we need to seek permission from Olele first. These Margaret and I see Olele as the platform and support the content creators giving their permission to create, not the platform. As you can see, that means that there is a little confusion which needs to be clarified. Number four, as you can imagine, the streaming videos attract a lot of attention. A lot of you see some of the bit of influence and text that you streaming videos online with the same people and those who are not visiting as highlighted. This is something we can't do based on the language of the community forms. It may seem clear, but family members have viewed their computer or others talking about life in Kuala Lumpur, for example. And we can see how someone come up from only or in the ground, maybe on the continent, maybe want to view the recording of someone speaking in a lot of video from long language. And there appears to be technical ways to make these programs available the way that we really get temporary access, but we have yet to figure all of that out. So let me pass this on to Margaret to talk about some of the technology and metadata issues.
Thank you, Jodie. Yes, I will also say she, her pronouns, and I am a settler in Hawaii. I actually moved here in 2017 for this job, so I've learned a ton, and my colleagues have been very helpful in educating me both about this connection and about the broader social political environment. That shows up a lot in my work. So Jodie has told you about the history of the project and how we collect materials, some of those challenges. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we manage these recordings and how we describe them and how we make them available. And show you some of the breadth of the things that we also have. And also you're gonna hear probably like 2019 a lot, because not only was that when we lost the Hawaii Media Librarian, that's also when our library moved its ILS to Alma and had to like figure out all of these workflows work in that system, and we didn't get it right the first time, which is not surprising. But so this is just an illustration of one of the things that we have in the collection. So this is Insights on PBS Hawaii. It's a local program. It's one of those, talk show formats where there's 4 or 5 guests and they have a different topic every time. And that's something I'm going to talk about, because a lot of these programs have the topics change from week to week, so it's really important to describe them on that episode level as opposed to just in general. So this specific one is about Olele Hawaii. So it's about what people are thinking about of the state of Olele Hawaii in Hawaii and how they can promote it and things like that. So that's something that researchers from the wine questionnaire would be really interested in, and knowing that there is this 45-minute program that really talks to people in the community about it. Yes, thank you. As Jodie has mentioned, this is very much us figuring out the workflow and us figuring out how we work around things. These are materials that are digital and local, and so they present some challenges. Right, we have everything in the library kind of set up to be, print or analog materials, you know, from the processing, they move from department to department. And we know how to input them in the system, all of that stuff. But when we have digital things, we're still figuring it out a lot of the time. So one of our librarians, acquisitions librarian actually, Nikhil Sung, created a database for us to manage the workflow for these materials, since we don't have a way to do this. So this way, the technical staff that Jodie mentioned can do their work with checking the files, checking quality control, all of that kind of stuff in the database and move it along to the next step so the next person knows what's going on. You can tell that it is a very local thing, which I was looking at these points and I realized that like some of our codes refer to specific people, right? So Paul is in there, who's like our CAT supervisor. So like you can tell this is not like a super streamlined process. And in another place of the database, it says like for Margaret, right? It's just like we know who we're referring to. And so it's great, it's very specific, but you know, when we're talking about sustainability over time, those are the kind of things that can get confusing when we're working on the workflow. But you can see here in the Sinclair, it's still called the Sinclair database from our old library. You can see that there are all these different codes about where in the process these materials are, right? So are they being compressed? Are we checking it's in a streaming server? Is it getting ready for cataloging? And then if so, does it be copy cataloging, original cataloging, what's going on? And this kind of stuff. So we have all of these codes to keep track of that workflow. And then, as Jodie said, these videos are recorded on Snapstream. Then they are checked and processed and added to the Grassroots server. The media and access staff handle the first steps of the process. So that's that sort of quality control, technical metadata, you know, what's the length of time of the program, when did it air, that kind of thing. So making sure that that is preserved. It is only after this process that material can be considered ready for cataloging. And here you can see a screenshot of some of these videos where there are some, you know, technical metadata included in the title part. So we have the first one where there's audio visual issues that cannot be resolved, right? So it can be maybe the sound is off, maybe there's lagging or something like that. This comes up a lot because we don't only have the things in the system that we record off air from the current program, but it's the same system where we digitize stuff. So sometimes things are just old and like it's not going to be perfect, but we think it's really still something that people would be interested in seeing, and so we're just noting that happened. And then we just have a general note that comes out on all of our videos about it has been converted from its original format. So it has the ability to just add these little things. And then comes how do we access and display these things, right? How do we get it so that the users can really see these things, right? That's what we want. We're doing all this work. We want people to be able to find this programming. So a little bit about that whole migration thing. So it turned out that the way we had done things in our previous system in Voyager, I started doing the same thing in Alma, and it just straight up didn't work. I did a new login and did a new way to put the links in so that not only people at UH Manoa could see them, but the whole UH consortium, right? They all have access. So we need to make sure that we're putting it into the system in a way where the link is accessible if you're at Leeward or if you're at Quad Community College, that kind of thing, figuring that out. Then we had some more fun with Alma where you can see here that I have it cataloged. I followed some best practices where it has the title of the program and then the title of the individual episode. But for a while, Alma was only reading that first part. So if you click down like that blog, it will just give you the links for every single Insights in Hawaii program we have. Maybe like 30, 45, maybe 100 lists. And no indication of which one was for the one that's actually in that. Describe that. A little Almighty she had, it is resolved now, that is not happening, that weird craziness. And then sometimes there are internal processes that can sweep or suppress links or bits, so that's something also worth thinking about. So yeah, and basically, we do have other streaming video collections, but most of the stuff is Hawaiian collection stuff. So it was left to me as a person cataloging for the Hawaiian collection to figure out how this was all gonna work. And trying to recreate the old process as much as possible. So consulting with the smart systems department, through our IT, to figure out how things should display correctly and how and all of that stuff. So that is been helpful in a way, because now if there's any other collection that has this kind of streaming material that they want to be made available locally, I can tell them how to do it. But we had to work it out first. So talking about the description, which is really my job as a blogger, is to provide description for these materials for the Hawaiian collection. So something that's really important about the off-air thing, and because of the Hawaiian collection's dedication to really thoroughly documenting all of their stuff, is that we provide episode level analysis for these videos, right? So they can be discovered and used. But it can also be challenging, right? So it's not like, books or DVDs where you have a little blurb on the back that'll tell you what it's about. And sometimes we do have the ability, Ellen really has the staffing to give a little description beforehand to send to you, so I can have something to start it off with. But that's still when someone has to watch some of this to describe it. So that is, time that's spent. You often have to watch a good portion of the video to, describe it correctly. So that's something that we think about in the episode level analysis. And also something we really want to include is, we want context for what's going on, and we also want the name. The names are really important for the people who are speaking on these programs. This is all like nonfiction programming, so people are speaking from their own experience. They're giving information that is not, necessarily written down anywhere. So we want to include those people's names as much as possible. But it can be difficult, right? So depending on the kind of program, people can, come in and out. 30 minutes in, there's a person. So you have to rely on the on-screen captions and pronouns usually to make sure that you have the name. And then we have some older material where they didn't even have that capacity, right? So you just have to sort of listen to the names. Listen to the name a couple of times, make sure you got it right. Go do your research, see if you can confirm that such a person, works for the Department of Land and Natural Resources at that time. So it does take extra time, and this is pretty much what I did when the library was shut down for COVID. I just worked on these all the time, which was good that I had the time. But talking about the episode level description, it also allows users to find a specific topic instead of a broad one, right? So if we were to catalog these, just I'll show you. Used to be at kind of the serial level, you're only going to get the broadest topics, right? This program is about oceanography. This program is about, news, that kind of thing. But we have all of these programs that deal with a variety of topics. Like the News and Debate program, it's different every week, and it can really vary at times. And there's different guests every week. So someone who is doing research into a specific person or a specific topic would usually have to sort through a lot of irrelevant material if that description was only at that broad level. But us having records for each episode means that they don't have to do that. They can actually just, do a keyword or a subject search like they would for anything else. And it kind of also equalizes in terms of, what is appropriate research material, or what can you find. You can find these programs in the catalog, like you would find articles and books. So I have some examples. It's not super exciting, I know, to look at the catalog, but it does give you some information about what's going on here. So one of the things I want to highlight, and this is actually one of our digitized collections first, is the First Friday video. So this is a program that really talked about politics and government in Hawaii, and it had a lot of Haunani K-Fast was on there a lot. Like, there was a ton of information about things going on in Hawaii from a Hawaiian perspective. So these are materials that we had on video, and then they were digitized and described following the author process. So here you can see what comes up in our catalog when you search First Friday. So the first one. Okay, yes. I was trying to remember how many slides I gave it. So the first record that we have here is the VHS, right? So this is the actual physical material. And it's done in sort of a serials format. So we have topics like the Pacific area, politics and government, Hawaii, politics and government, these kind of things, social problems, things that are really broad, right? And that's an accurate description of the whole, right? But it's not necessarily for every single episode. And then there's just a screenshot here of the little title screen from First Friday, where they also called it the unauthorized news. So I think that was interesting. But if we look at one of the actual episodes, so this is one that is talking about the plebiscite in Puerto Rico and relating the struggles in Puerto Rico, dealing with the American government with Hawaii, and having people from both of those places on and talking about it. And so this is one of those things that would never come out in that really broad level description, right? You would never expect necessarily someone from Puerto Rico to come and be really talking about that. But if we have the episode level description, we know that that's the case. And so this can be really helpful for, a specific researcher who is looking at these topics more broadly, or it can expand the thinking of the Hawaiian studies students of where else they can find information that is related to similar things. And I just also want to highlight some of the variety of programming we have. We have just a lot of things in the author collection, because it's a lot of just what happens, what's on local programming, what people are interested in. So this, and you can't see through that, I thought they would be bigger on the screen with that piece of them, but so the first one is Voice of the Sea, which is a program that is from like it's related to the university, and it's about oceanography. Sea grant, thank you, that's the word. See, she knows the topics because she does the selection. But so the Voice of the Sea is something that talks a lot about research in Hawaii and in the Pacific that has to do with oceanography and the reefs and animals and all of that kind of stuff. So but this particular episode is about architecture and how architecture can be sustainable for climate change, right? Looking at that kind of part of oceanography. And so again, that's something that's never going to come out if you just have a general record, right? You would never expect to find information about architecture, but there is information about architecture in this specific episode. And you can also see that first bit there with like many, many. Here is the names, right? So this is a program that has like composed of little segments. So every like 8 to 10 minutes, you have a new speaker talking about something that they really know a lot about. And so this ability really has us, lets us bring out all of the names, see all the people who are talking, have them all represented here as little on-screen presenter saying, this is the information that is here. And so again, that's another access point for users, right? If you're researching a specific person, you might just come across this and say, oh, maybe I've only read their works and I've never really seen them talk. And so it'd be really helpful to have that kind of discovery where, oh, now I can see this person really talking about their research in maybe more than an informal And then we also have, Jodie mentioned a lot of music programs. Music is really important. We have some really good ones that are looking at like the history of music in Hawaii, right? There's about hula practitioners, melee, like all of that kind of stuff. But then we have more modern stuff. So this is a record for Hot Hawaiian Nights, which is just like recording local bands playing in different places around. And so this is for the OPP pickers, and it just, it has the information about the band, it doesn't have as much subject analysis because it's really hard to do it for music, right? What is music about? Not something I want to get into on a daily basis. But it is, another kind of research or another kind of information that people might be interested in having, and they might not expect the library to have it, but because we're collecting all this local programming, we also have that. So that's just to show you, like, we have all kinds of stuff in this, and so Jodie's efforts and all the efforts from my colleagues are really helpful in making this all public and making it all something that you can find in our library catalog. And then we're looking towards future research. Jodie mentioned that we have all of these programs related to, the COVID pandemic. So I pulled out one episode of Insights on PBS Hawaii again, which is a news program. And so this is a news program discussing, COVID restrictions stuff from April 2020, right? And so you can see how in the future, someone who is researching this and researching, how it affected people locally would be really interested in seeing, what people were thinking in the first month of lockdowns and what was available to them, what we knew at that time, what we didn't, and that kind of stuff. So we have the ability, because we're always recording, to really think about the future research and make sure that we have things for them when they're ready to do that. Then another one, this record is from Island Connections, which is I believe it's one of the ethnic studies professors. Yes. Runs that. It's a little, talk show program about different topics. So this one is about the 30-meter telescope, which is a huge topic in Hawaii, and especially at the university. And I remember one of my colleagues telling me just a few weeks ago how, there's not a ton of information in, traditional sources in our libraries for this kind of stuff. There is actually a project working on collecting more of the non-traditional stuff, but also I wanted to highlight that this is a recording from 2015. So again, also thinking about if people are trying to trace the history of different regions in Hawaii, this can be something that's really helpful because you can see what people were talking about in 2015 versus when people started going on the mountain and really protesting and that really gaining a lot of attention. So you can see the history of all of that. So yeah, just the ability to have these, and because we're doing this work, and Jodie doing all this work to get commissions, now we have the ability to have this information available in the future for researchers who will definitely be looking at these topics, especially as we're building out more and more interest in, local research and promoting that, and, thinking of the Hawaii, the university and the library as a native language learner. You have to, focus on the local, right? You have to think about what those topics are. And then of course we have challenges, there's challenges in a lot of things. So, as I mentioned before, some of the material lacks context. There's not a lot of information available about it. And so it can be difficult to find information about the programs. Like the programs are recorded and the plans speak for themselves, but there's not necessarily other coverage of it, or you might not even find it available on, the website of the channel, any kind of description and stuff like that. So that can be a challenge. Also, how to describe material appropriately, but not exhaustively, right? Where do we stop? What is the right amount of material? I do spend a lot of time when I work on these, going through the names, but there is, a limit that we're, doing man on the street interviews and talking to 30 people. You can't even put all of their names in there. That would really mess up the record and would be disproportional to the other things in the catalog. Making sure that our workflows integrate with the platforms we're using, which is a continuing thing where we're doing this workaround thing instead of, just using the workflows that the rest of the library are using for, other materials and documenting, and because of that, documenting and sharing information, making sure that other people in the library, that are researchers, that are students, know that these things are available, is part of that. But also making sure that we all understand what each other's work entails, like what step, if something gets pulled up, what step did it get held up on, and who do I actually talk to about that, instead of just letting it, sit there for quite a while. But we're continuing this work, and Jodie said, as long as we have the ability to do so, the staffing at whatever level is sustainable for us. So we want to maintain and improve the workflow, right? Make sure that is in place and that we're not doing extra steps. There's not things we can be doing differently. Communicating workflows. So, again, making sure we all know what each other are doing. Ensuring that the records display and links work correctly, which is important for me to do that when I have spent time making the catalog record, ensure that they can be accessed by researchers and users and they make sense. And the links work also always very important because sometimes they don't, and nobody tells you about that. You just realize that people have been clicking on something and then just put it up. And then promoting access, making sure that people know that these things are available, and we can, help them figure out if there's something that would actually be useful for what they're doing. So, that's enough from me. So thanks for listening to our presentation, and I believe we have some time for questions.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's not like half of our hands.
So they have one question from
Yes.
internet. Yeah, what application is used for cataloging?
Oh, so I just do the cataloging locally in Alma, so they are marked records. All our other cataloging is done in OCLC, but, because these are local things that no one else has access to, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have them in OCLC. So, I just create a local Alma record and then, you can create like a portfolio and put the links in there so that they display like, regular physical holdings.
Let me add that, we have been talking about our local communities, city university community and, visiting centers. However, we've been noticing in the last, I would say, 10 years, that issues about Hawaii and Native Hawaiians have been gathering interest, with college students and researchers, nationally and internationally. And so, streaming videos have ethnic interests outside of our campus. And we've already mentioned that we really don't have the way to show those streaming videos. And we've been had one video from the US Geographical Service that is freely available to anyone. And it's actually also on YouTube Patreon. So most of our series are restricted to the campus as well as visitors. We are hoping to find a way to share the materials, because there is that great interest and there are these connections, between Hawaii and Native Hawaiians and other indigenous peoples, connections with other countries, other, further. So that's one thing that we, anticipate putting the time and effort to do that with. And if you are thinking about doing this kind of on-care program with your institution, no, it is an effort, it is a lot of time, and money and infrastructure. You will need a lot of people to do this work.
So definitely, I also have a question. I feel really empathize myself for the developer. I know it's really hard work. It's such a hard work to, they do a lot of description thing. So do you have a plan to apply the AI tool for this work?
I personally am a big AI hater. I do not, and one of the things you mentioned is the evaluation of cataloging working group that I was a chair of. And so if this work matters, if we think it's useful for people, people need to be doing work. Right? And so the thing about AI is it generalizes everything. And if we're talking about specificity, like you're gonna lose it. You're gonna lose that. So yeah, that's my opinion on it, but.
No, you're not the first one to talk about that. Actually, Margaret, I ever heard from another working group on cataloging, and she also said that no, because if you use AI, you have to check it.
Right, it's worse.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to make something from scratch than to fix someone's bad record that they made with AI.
Yeah.
It takes the same amount of time and it makes your job so much worse.
Yeah, so that's why they decide to do by themselves, not AI. So I just, yeah, that's another question.
I did want to add about the AI.
Okay.
Apology for three of us. But the one, this is kind of an aside, but Margaret and I were just chatting about how AI has really impacted our work, her cataloging and my work in area studies and special collections. One example is that my colleague purchased a book about Catherine Gibbs' book in Hawaii, which of course you have many about that. However, when we received the book, we could not verify the publisher. The publisher does not have a website. And we thought that the book also talked about how James Company really doing the performance chef. So obviously, a template was used, or perhaps the AI thought James Cook, James Beard.
James Beard is a cook.
Yeah, no, oh, I didn't, yes, James Beard is a cook. So James Cook. We need to get information about that. And that's just one example of where AI is encouraging from the publishing industry. I found that the subtitles of this very thin book, which has no, it's open reality and no citations and no maps or illustrations. Actually use significant words and phrases from the other books. One from Cambridge University and another from, I believe, a very well-known publisher in Australia. So, where there is you can see AI, it is programmed to utilize the metadata to then draw people like myself to say, hey, this book in the library may be really not. But my grad students found it amazingly interesting, so we're significantly teaching from this. So this is just one example of AI gone up, and we have a few others we want to chat about that later. Perhaps I can want to see. So, thank you.
I think they have another question. Yeah, Jodie, or I think, is there a systematic way of looking for information, metadata to fill the missing gap? Do you have a template for such an exercise?
Margaret, please.
Yeah, I mean, we have a template for what the records itself should look like. But the point is that nobody else has described these things, right? That's what I was kind of saying, like, the information doesn't exist, so we can't search for it. Because, that's just how it is, and so we're doing, looking at the actual programming and taking the information from there, which is the best source. So it would be nice if we had, more people on this, and I think that's really the solution is either better descriptions from the places we're getting these materials from, right? Or we just need to have people, working on these things. Because, yeah, if the whole idea is enhancing the description and making things more specific than that serial record. So, we just kind of have to look for those specifics.
I think we should finish. So you please give a big round of really wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. One more question? No, okay. So I hope you enjoy the panel and yeah, maybe we can talk a little later about the AI thing and the legal copy. Great. Okay, so thank you so much then for and thank you for the all.
You can send us the Jody's and all of them.
Just a little bit upon the AI, like, you guys won't catch up on you see that. So I was gonna find people that like interest. Realized there was this reader that there that kept popping up regarding like the personnel listing on like music always still give us it. That's like, yeah, that's the sponsor to me. And you guys like, oh yeah, I'm making AI scripts to like take these abbreviations from this index and like just parse them out. And I'm like, cool, it's like.
Right, it's the idea that like, it just, content needs to be generated, but like,
That's on the other side.
that's the.
Yeah, so we have
like the
videos is in this folder.
reason they do so made the index is to fill out the index.
Exactly.
So we're just.
Sitting there like, I was like, I don't know, I asked you to create a script, correct? Or script. I just, you just.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna tell you myself, like, thank you for creating, I like, really, I feel that on a deep
It
level.
depends on what to control your own, because you have to control from this laptop.
Okay, so yeah. Okay, it's fine.
I can help. I can help, but if I do something wrong, you just correct me. Okay.
Perhaps.
You can.
Okay, so the 13 one will be after the 13 slide. Will that be easier if you help me out?
See, yeah.
So
Adam,
after this and then
I'm just looking.
Yeah, so just,
Questions.
okay.
And then those are after the 17
Okay.
slide.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
See you.
Okay, so we're gonna start another presentation. So the next presentation is Grassroots Media as a Cultural Memory, the Beigang with Orchestra in Community Generation Footage by ChiaWei Lin from National Taiwan Normal University. So let me introduce you for ChiaWei Lin. Jodie is assistant professor of music psychology at National Taiwan Normal University. She earned her PhD in musicology from University of California, Davis. Lin's research examines Taiwan's music history through community archive, performance practice, and media. Her current project investigates the Beigang Orchestra and its distinctive role in century of Western wind music in Taiwan. She studied with the composer Chen Maochun and other cultural intersection Chen Maochun and his music, accompanied by twin exhibition in Taipei and Beijing. More broadly, she explored how performance, mediate generational and cultural ties in Taiwan. So please welcome her.
Thank you, Sanjay. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. My paper is Grassroots Media as author memory, the Beigang Orchestra in community generated footage. I start with a simple observation. In Taiwan's Western music histories, the everyday musical life of communities often goes missing from both the archive and the narrative. Today, I focus on the Beigang Orchestra and ask, what changes when we treat community photos and videos as living archives, not just illustration? Since the 1990s, Taiwan's Western music historiography has entered centered elite musicians, conservatory culture, and government-supported ensembles. Community-rooted bands tied to ritual life, like the Beigang Orchestra, tend to fall out of view. My aim is to bring that missing picture forward by using grassroots photos and videos to center locality, religion in everyday life, and amateur participation across generations. For very quick context, Taiwan moved through Dutch, Spanish, Jan, Qing, Japanese, and after World War II, Republic of China rule. Martial law lasted from 1949 to 1987. Because of that history, a Taiwan-centered Western music historiography did not fully cohere until 1990s, shaping what was preserved and what was left unrecorded. Community archives help us rebalance the record by listening from the ground up. The timeline shows the sequence of regimes and the 1990s consolidation of Taiwan-centered writing. It helps explain why centralized, linear stories became dominant and why we now need community-generated sources to widen the frame. Most accounts display large frames, imperial modernity in colonial era, national building and Cold War policy after 1945, and cultural pluralism after martial law. Archives carry power. Institutions decide what counts as history. Local, amateur, and religion everyday practices are pushed to margins. My shift is to begin from community self-documentation as a new starting point. The corpus spans a century. We got private photographs from 1925 to 1990s. We also got a 1966 60mm reel of Beigang Masu pilgrimage and a 2025 smartphone clip where members greet Matsu with Western marches and the tune Happy Birthday. These sources let us track sound, image, space, and social ties across media generations. I read images as history and sound as evidence. I also read media formats, the image, and transfer workflows as evidence about care, reuse, and governance. I use 5 lenses together: image, object, body, space, and sound. These 5-way reading, linked to acousticology, helps us hear history from the street, the temple, and the family album. In colonial scarcity, ensembles used what they could get, creating hybrid story, half military band and half folk. Drum cymbal patterns line up with simple perceptions. Accordingly, and point to social disobedience. But standing on both shallow implies Chicago base. Localization here is a material, practical response, not simple copying. This is our photo too. Uniforms, brass openings, and marching formations share space with Matsu Temple. And it's a plane with ships, the precision sound. Western instruments expand pitch and harmony, changing the overall profile of the ritual. Young men appear as modern citizens and ritual attendants at once. So let me add one key feature of Beigang Wind Orchestra. Founded in 1925 by local residents, specifically to serve the Matsu pilgrimage. It is not a concert hall ensemble, it is a ritual ensemble embedded in local neighborhoods. Here's the problem a photo cannot solve. How exactly did the Western band sound sit inside the temple sound field, and how did it move? Very fortunately, in May 2025, while planning Beigang Centennial, I learned from a temple preservation officer that a 1966 pilgrimage wheel existed. The temple had funded a transfer at that time, but there was no AV policy there. So the film element is now undeposited at Taiwan Film and AV Institute. I contacted Mr. Liang, a local history enthusiast, not a professional technician. He told me in summer 2015 he sent the reel to Modern Cinema for a high quality image transfer. And later that year, he sent it to Taiwan Film and AV Institute for another sound transfer. He also filmed the transfer process, including a live preparation pair and tape repair. And that footage has become part of the live archive itself. So here is a short excerpt. From the transfer session, please note the perforation clear and the fix. So let's watch the short clip of the process of transfer.
你这3卷再不做，过个3、5年可能就完了。哦，水管破掉。哇！
哇！
你再过个3、5年可能就没了。我跟你说，真的，已经这样子了。不然康。哎呀，那个可以。他之后照着痕迹看，它这个不可能，它会自然变成这样。这个东西不可能自然变，这是因为磁孔拖的。哦。拖过去啊，这个是磁孔拖的，所以有拿出来放过。这种是麻烦在说，你虽然说它严重，我这样补的话，一打下去，本来不应该有磁孔，会变成有磁孔，所以它这个蛮麻烦的。你要补就是要看在一个容忍度范围之内补，你不补的话，就是过的时候要小心一点。我帮你弄单边就好了，因为我怕它会打到画面去。你知道我的意思吗？
我懂。
就是它已经不在正确的位置上，所以我如果强要把它补得很好的话，它会伤到磁孔边边的画面，就是你磁孔会被我撑大。
Technically, the wheel is called out 7240 reversal, 656 feet, with dual magnetic struts on the back. Condition-wise, we see multiple splices, perforation damage, mild Leonardo syndrome, and a red sheet. By live archiving, I mean, your archive is in motion. New transfers, new fixes, new carry, and new community nodes can enter over time. What you will hear and see our work in progress states but still carry strong historical evidence. Today, we hold 3 copies existing files: a low resolution AV combined file, a pure audio file, a high resolution picture only file, together with Ms. Liang's transfer footage. These make a live archive. Next, I will play 3 short excerpts from 1966, then a 2025 film clip. So before we start the file watching, first a sync the low resolution version. Please watch the white military style uniforms of the branch of Beigang Orchestra, or we call it Linshan Band, move through the crowd. And then we will listen for the Western brass against traditional gowns and sona, which is a Chinese cavalry instrument. So let's go back to the beginning of this whole renovation here. But even at low resolution, seeing and hearing the better matters. Brass projection layered onto the temple sound field. Western band sound is not an outsider. It becomes a visual essay. So next one, we are going to hear the audio file. So now audio only file first, we are trying to get to the idea and the sound of opening drums. And what we just saw in the previous file, we see those with low resolution image of the Chinese songs and drum. And then we're going to listen to the band, the Beigang Wind Band enters. And please also listen to the tempo and up and the moment the harmonic center sings up. So it's only here we hear the structure, drums set the pace and stakes. Brass plays a harmonic canopy. This is a layered ritual soundscape. Now we're going to watch the picture-only high resolution file, and I will talk when we are watching. So this is only the picture. So please check it out. We will see the drum, the Chinese drum, because this is only the picture. So we can kind of get the idea how the formations or how the motion will go back in 1966. And this is the Chinese double reed instrument sonata. And now here comes the band. Please watch the split formation. Two lanes lead a ritual career in the middle. The sousaphone carries the moving bass, and the brass throws the melody forward. So this is a military band discipline inside a sacred passage. So you get the idea, there's a Western band in between those local or Chinese parade. And you also can see the outfit, the spoken Taiwanese war back in 1966. A cross-high resolution picture, pure audio file, no resolution AV, plus the chamber footage, we gain a live archive idea, multi-source, multi-quality, and renewable, ready for data syncing, training, and scholarly use. So now I'm going to play a 2025 phone clip, which was taken at the band space. You will hear Western marches and the tune of Happy Birthday song for Mattos' new birthday. Please note the near field mix. You can hear fireworks, brass, voices, and how the moving mic shifts the listening position. The global melody is centralized in place. One forms spread it quickly, and the community commands and takes. The archive grows on the fly. So, the internal self-history of Beigang Wind Orchestra often celebrate reunions, features, prizes, and big concerts. That pride is real. But the Beigang's case, those sources can miss the point. The band functions as community sound infrastructure for ritual, care, and memory. Photos, the 1966 film, and the 2025 clip place life practice and preservation labor at the center. let me connect the line. So, we watched the 1920 speech photo. We saw accessible instrumentation as a practical material response. We also watched and look at the temple photo, taken in 1940s. What was the hint of visual acoustic? And we also watched the clips of the 1966 film. So three file formats plus the transfer documentation shows a wide archive that we can still resync, reinterpret, and expand. So finally, we watched the 2025 film clip. That was a platform era ritual sunset with instant circulation and in-community re-annotation. In short, images make history sound is evidence, and preservation is co-governed by communities, labs, and institutions. How might these data materials continue to grow as a live, co-created archive, technically and iteratively? I'd love to hear and learn from your ideas to help this community archive grow. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there any question in the room? Maybe I have to ask a question, but not the time for me. But I would like to ask the archive, want to know about the research methodology. I mean, it was in the part of, okay, when you look at the photo, they might have only three photo, or the film, 15 minutes to use, but nowadays the smartphone is everywhere and they have tons of it. How do you select which clip that you want to use to study? How you have the methodology that you select this kind of material that you study or research?
Well, I'm a music historian.
Yeah.
So I basically look for those old photos and videos. And I was very lucky this time that I can combine the same kind of photos and also the clip. And even I reach those people who share the transfer process. So that's really lucky. We can combine everything. So we can watch the photo and think about the sound. But before this, we probably have very few photos that we can only infer. But that's also something interesting and creative in terms of the historiography part, because we watch materials and documents and we try to put everything together and make the history, the stories more complete. So that's the generation difference.
But what about this day, like the clip that YouTube clip that you have to study, that how you're gonna make it, what can I say, like, because they have tons of the clip nowadays, how you select that?
So, in terms of the topic of Beigang Orchestra, they have a group that they share the same event, but those clips are taken by different people. So you can see the different position, different mic shift, and different focus. And in that way, we can kind of assume or even understand how different people think about this event.
Yeah.
Some people think the formations or the uniform is way much more important than the sound. And some people think that the conductor is probably not the center point. Maybe some of the kids or the listeners will be the center focus. So you combine even the same event with different clips.
Yeah.
You might get the idea of what they focus on.
That's good. You want to jump through? Yeah. But definitely, my question is, well, when you approach community that basically project, you have to how to get the see the and then you about 5,000 and about 30 people have one, people are both in the media, but the
Thank you. It's a very good question. I think I'm a very lucky person with this on. I've always did something very good in the previous life. I start from research a composer who is my teacher. And then this is about his family, and his family was rooted in this community for more than 150 years. So I started from trace his family, and I reached his orchestra. So through my research journey, I have met friends with those people. And there is the community networks. When you reach someone who is kind of important in that local place, you've got all those human resource and networking. So I got into this field kind of easy, so I probably won't be able to answer if we are just an outsider and unexpected maybe. But being as a member of the community might be a good way to start from, but that takes time, of course.
Please. Thank you for this presentation. I'd like to go back to that thought. And I'm wondering if you have considered, rather than sort of looking at the archival and it's going to be on weekly or or something that you can be more proactive, setting out for students, including these performance spaces and so on, so forth. And in the past, there was someone something here on said I saw this, it's clear from this perspective, it's really clear. So are you more proactive in that?
Thanks for your advice. I think, yeah, that should be the way that we started to make these archive or the history grow as alive. In my past research, that took a lot of effort to collect these materials and documents because they're local and everyday life, and that was out of the view of the archiving. So I start from that point, and now I've got probably enough. And I go back to the community and share with them, even for them, they don't understand their history and their past. So I started to be active to tell them what happened in the past and what they are spending right now. And maybe in the future, we can do something for the archiving. So I start from the community, but yeah, even more broader, we should, make it as a teaching material or even for the cultural materials for people in that community or even in my country to understand there's this kind of past that we can make as the ingredients to create our future.
We've not but so thank you so much for Germany. Can you still recall for really wonderful presentation? So I hope that you enjoy the presentation, and now it's time for coffee break downstairs. See you later. Hope you enjoy the next couple of days. Thank you.
Evaluations. The NAAC use inspections and evaluations as an important mechanism to promote archive work and to assess the implementation of archives law of China. The NAAC regularly formulates supervision and inspection plans, conducting supervision and inspections in some archives institutions, covering aspects related to audiovisual archives. The NAAC have implemented a 5-yearly evaluation for comprehensive archives at or above the deputy provincial level. There are many requirements contained in this text. And here I will list some directly related to the audiovisual archives, such as in the section of architecture and equipment, it says that report series must be equipped with functional temperature and humidity measurements and control devices, including those for audiovisual archives. And in the section of basic archive operations, it requires that during the evaluation cycle, an annual average of 10,000 photo archives of audiovisual archives and 5,000 minutes of audiovisual archive must be acquired. And also, digitization of all photo and audiovisual archives must be completed with digital outcomes linked to the catalogs. And the NAC also have made archive risk assessment indicator system. The system is which can use by the archives to assess the risk by themselves. And then it also lists some risks that the audiovisual archive may face, such as absence, instability, and unreliability of the automatic fire alarm systems. And also like the improper storage of audiovisual archives, as the situation of incomplete shelving, disordering arrangements, inaccurate location, index non-compliance, storage for various media types. Audiovisual archives are perishable and irreplaceable. They are precious treasures passed down to humanity by history. The management and the conservation of audiovisual archives is a professional and a long-term project. We will continue to improve our strategies and advance the high-level preservation and the refined protection of audiovisual archives. We also look forward to learning from the experience of other countries or regions through the exchange at this conference, working together with everyone to explore effective paths for the long-term preservation of audiovisual archive and the contributing Chinese wisdom to the inheritance of world culture. And thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was fascinating and very inspiring to hear about all the wonderful work being done at the National Archives Administration of China. I do want to note we have 8 minutes for questions. I was told that the next session starts at 11, 2 floors down. So we'll keep it to 8 minutes, but can you, I would like to open the floor for any questions or comments, please. Now we'll kick it off then. I think that several things popped out at me that were really enlightening. One is that that each regional center has its own audiovisual component. And so does each one work essentially on its own in all areas, digitization, storage? You mentioned storage, but each facility has its own digitization studio and the other related areas and works on its own. And then does, my question as in is one, do they each do their digitization on their own? And 2, does all of them then digitize material? How is that stored? Is it stored centrally by the archive in the central location, or is it each essentially their own entity?
They will put their resources in their own archives. They just the training the work, or they may bring the archive to the center and then do the digitization and then go back to their archives. Yes.
Yes, please.
By now, we only build the two centers, and the other nearby archives will be put in separate archives at all the levels. Also, the catalog by themselves. This is very interesting software, and so you could use something that says built already together, or if the regional centers, whether all are complete and running, or yes, it covers all the mission. 好，这个这。How many people look at people? Yeah. Maybe about 20 or 30. It depends on the archives in themselves. Maybe the centers will be put on their protection department, or maybe the digitization department. It depends on their own. Because we put the centers in different archives. Wow. Okay.
Any other questions at the moment? I'm also was interested in the risk assessment system. I think this is something that is of a high interest across the world, certainly in Southeast Asia and Asia. Can you explain elaborate a little bit on how this was developed, and especially given the vast differences as you described in climate, in regional differences?
No.然后它是一个，其实就是一个表格式的一个就是东西，然后就是帮助网友他自己来一个去做这个东西。 That's. Yes, yes, that's says the municipalities.
I think it's an impressive feat because many are, this is what many, I'm not gonna say every archive really has trouble with is managing the risk, but also then taking, most of us know the risks, but aren't able to take the concrete action in a strategic and planned way. So,
There's problems,
mhm.
and you can see to whether you have the programs to check.
Are there any other final questions? Then I think we will give our speakers a rousing round of applause. I'm sure they will be. I'm sure they would be happy to elaborate on anything. Please talk to them during our session throughout the week. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.